Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sisters. Oh, keeping it real with the Sisters of the Light. See, I almost forgot who I am. I'm Ann Keither here with Terry Ann Russell, and we are joined tonight by Dr. Roche. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here on your podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to have you. I'm very intrigued by your book, The Joy of the Matrix. And just that word alone just gets me giddy and excited. So Terry Ann, if you don't mind, can I ask the first question?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what made you write this book and who's this book for? Like how did this book come about?
So this was actually my all the tools I used on my own healing journey. And so I wrote this book because I said to myself, I always wanted to write. And ever since I was very little, I knew I'd be writing books. I loved the writing process and the feel of the flow, the energy and all of it. I was like, all my life, I'd be like, what am I really going to write about? You know what I mean? And so I went through all of these really awful experiences that I had, like my life just bottomed out in so many ways. And I had to like crawl up from the blackness of just, oh my gosh, the bottoms I went through. And I had to learn these tools, like these spiritual tools, emotional healing tools. I had to face all the deepest, darkest parts of my life and my trauma and my history. And it's like, so I wanted to write something that was the book I most needed during those blackest moments. And I said, it's like I spent so long and so much energy and time learning these healing tools that I wanted like a manual that I could hand to somebody that was at that level at that time. And I was so black for so many years. And
where was that book when I was starting to awaken?
I wish and so the book is designed for anybody that's struggling emotionally. And so I felt that like there wasn't enough out there on emotional healing. I think we have brilliant people in all of these areas, from science to spirituality to the human body to you name it. But I don't feel our culture does a great job about teaching about emotional healing.
No.
And so I've been on this kind of like walk with metaphysics for the last 20 years. And I really wanted to set the book within the mind kind of concept of vibrational frequency. Because when I struggled with depression, we're talking like severe, not being able to get out of bed, could barely function, wanting to die every day type depression, like just black, because I would see everybody around me so happy and living these joyful lives of purpose, which I so wanted. And I couldn't figure out how I could get from, lying in bed wanting to die to like actually out there living. And so I made this, and it's in my stories in the back of the book. And in the book, I had this moment with God. It was like 3 a.m. And I said, listen, God, I was surrounded by my cats. They were my little sacred beings around me. And I was like, listen, if you teach me how the hell to get out of this place, if you teach me how, I will spend the rest of my life teaching everyone I know.
I love that.
I said, if you get me out of this place, because I was, oh my God, so broken. And I had lost everything to this heart, like we're talking like 4 houses and everything I had owned, and bankruptcy, and just demolished from this abusive narcissistic relationship that was physically and emotionally and spiritually abusive. And I was at this bottom, and I was like, how can I ever climb out of this? I was at the lowest part of my life, but my brain couldn't work. So I said, all right. Went to all these healers and doctors and professionals and mental health, anything. I read hundreds and hundreds of self-help books, thousands in the end, but like, how do I help myself get to a place of wholeness and joy and healing? And it took me through some really interesting places, but ultimately I figured out the pieces. And this is my personalized program I use whenever I'm feeling funky, whenever I'm hitting some really hard stuff, which this has been a hard year for me. All I have to do is turn to those principles, and they will always pull me to a higher vibrational place. And I really wanted that to be able to communicate from everything, like, how do you, if your brain's not working and you are depressed or anxious, what is going on in the brain wellness wise to help fix it on your own? Like, what are the things that you need to be aware of to help your brain align, or if you're struggling with heart stuff, or whether it be, your body's not working right, whether it be inflammation. So all those things, or forgiveness or trauma or whatever it might be. And so I really wanted to write something that was real, raw, but most importantly, extremely helpful.
I love that. And you know what I love about everything that you saying? It's not, well, one, especially now, it's needed more than ever, right? I think something like that, like the Bible of the emotions is needed more than ever right now. But I love how the two words that totally standed out to me is I love how you said how in tools, because I think some people think when they pray to God or they get spiritual or they really open, that they're just going to sit there and like this light of beam's going to come down and it's going to take all that worry. But it's that, how do I need to do it? And then give me the tools. Not saying that you're just going to sit there and do nothing. You're willing to work for it. So I love those two words. I love that you said that. And I love that you give that in here. I was reading on it that there's 77. Did I read that right? Like 77. That's huge. How big is this book? Is it like this?
So I really, it was, so 77 is a spiritual number, right? All about frequency.
Yes.
And so one of the things that that I love the most about my walk, and I've really walked through some really like just horrible stuff, that whether, I don't know how, my soul obviously chose it, right? So but
that's hard pill to swallow sometimes, isn't it?
Oh goodness, when we've chosen some things, but it's the connection to my intuition and my connection to my angel guides and my spirit guides, and that piece, oh my God, that has been my most valuable tool. And so and then when I really started to understand metaphysics and frequency, that was the game changer, because I loved cells and biochemistry so much. And I was so attached to that way of thinking. Once I understood that emotions were energy and frequency that I had control over, that changed my entire life and my whole reality. And so these 77 tools, and I wrote it so that no matter where you opened it up, it was like it was written in a way where it could be of value. And so each tool was written, but not just how to use the tool, but why it works. And so so whatever tool, it's all about willingness, right? And so some days I'm not, it took me, I think today I'm like on day 98 of no sugar and no gluten. All right. And so
awesome. Okay. I'm working on getting there. It's hard.
Thank you so much. But previous to that, I know for 2 months I ate like Cheetos and cookies every single day, trying to deal with the loss of my father. He died, he passed away, and the loss of my girlfriend at the time.
Oh, sorry.
My longest relationship in the same week. So I was like, dude, I'm gonna eat as many chocolate chip cookies as I friggin' want to. All right.
Absolutely. Yes.
But at some point I was like, I'm not really walking in my integrity, vibrationally, whatever. So it's like I wasn't willing. But I really feel sometimes it's just about us like gearing up our willingness for the action if we're not quite there yet. And so that I really wanted that book to really be about, like, let's say you're not able to let go of the sugar, but maybe you are willing to move your body, or to listen to certain types of affirmations, or to lay there and meditate for 5 minutes, or to reach out to a friend, or to work on different even colors around you can shift your frequency. And so so when I look at that book, it's almost like it's like a part of my soul. That's the only way I could.
Oh, it is part of your soul.
It's like a part of me out in the world that like I almost like I don't want to look at it because I remember what it took to walk through all that. But then I'm like, wow, like I'm so grateful that I'm not in the place I was 15 years ago. And that
it could give you that reflection. You could look back and see how far you've come from that time.
Oh my God. And I really love the idea of your podcast, keeping it real.
Yeah,
we
right.
I think that's so awesome. And
thank you.
The that whole idea of keeping it real, I think, was one of the most important principles now that I run my life. Like I somehow fell into 12-step recovery. Okay. After I lost all my houses and oh my God, getting out of that abusive relationship. I don't think I've ever been more at the bottom of my life. I fell into 12-step recovery, and and that program, and I'm still in it for 20 years, in many different areas. Now I'm a sponsor to people and a lot of other things, but
Mm.
um, it really was sitting in those rooms at the very bottom of my life where I had to just, it was so bad, and hearing people being real, that
Mhm.
gave me the most hope, and it realized that I wasn't alone and
Mhm.
all that I was walking through. And, I think that when we're able to share our stories, and
Mhm.
when we're really able to share the sacredness of the walk of our heart,
Mhm.
I think that's when not only are we able to more fully spiritually connect to other people's hearts, because our hearts are more open, and
Mhm.
that currency of the universe flows through us to help heal us. And we
Yep.
realize we are not alone. And
Mm-mm.
that's
No.
and so it was really like, and it's and the people that I have in my life that really keep it real with me, I
Mhm.
treasure so much.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Oh
that
my,
authenticity, don't you find? It's like that
Mhm.
authenticity that people can really relate to. And that's why Ann and I do this. It's because people are out there and they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. I just awoken and blah, blah, blah. But we're like you down in the trenches. I mean, the path that I set up for myself to come here and to do this work has
Mhm.
been the most difficult path.
oh, I can totally, yeah.
And I think you do people a disservice when you don't share that piece of you. Yes, there's wonderful things and we meet great people and we connect with the most beautiful beings ever alive. But to get to that point, we've had to be kicked when we're down, and sharing that place. I find when you share from that place of vulnerability, right? People really see like right through you almost. It's like
Mhm.
when I'm speaking to somebody that's very vulnerable with me. It's almost like I can see through their soul and I see the pain and the suffering that they went through and I know that they're authentic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
I appreciate those people so much, like the people that have had the courage to really just tell it like it is and was,
Mhm.
and to really, because our culture really admires pretty successful people, and that, you know what I mean? They really have that idealized life. And I certainly, I don't know, like I like real people. I like people that'll just lay it on the line and not, not care what anybody thinks of them. And, because I can't, yeah, I so appreciate that level of honesty and rawness, because
Yeah.
that's how you help people. Nobody wants to hear about your perfect life. You know what I
No, because if anything, I think it would do the opposite. They're there for help. They're there when they come to people like us, right? Or healers or other mentors, is because they have hit that low and they have nowhere else to go.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I think this book is also amazing that you wrote it, because I'm not trying to bag, but yes, I am going to bag on people, because the last couple of readings that I have done, some of these people are more worse off than now these new coaches and mentors.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I know they're doing it from the grace of their heart, but if you're not experienced in that, then I don't think you have the right to give your 2 cents. If
Okay.
it's a trauma that I've never experienced, and it is definitely out of, I would say, my pay grade and my education, then I need to send you to somebody else that can help you. But think so many of these people are, getting these templates and they're learning of, okay, ask them this, but they're not realizing that those are things that can spiral them into a really bad depression. Like you said, that it was like you couldn't even get it because they're not finding exactly what you said, the tools or the how. They're just telling them what they have, but they're not giving them what they need. Yeah.
No, I know for me, I went through sexual trauma as a child, incest,
Mm,
and a lot of other things. My mother had schizophrenia, and we lived in poverty, and it was just a real human wake up call in many ways.
right.
But one of the things that I really, I'm working on my next book, and one of the things I really wanted to do in that book is to really showcase like the healing of trauma, and really like what that, and how deep the darkness can really consume your consciousness, the energy of the old trauma, as we're healing, as we're triggered. And and for me, what I discovered was that there are several brain wellness hacks that you can do along the process that regulates the signaling in different areas of your brain. And anyway, there's a few other brain hacks that greatly help when those triggers hit.
I love
Because
that.
if you've gone, I know for me, because that trauma, occurred in a very vulnerable space. So when you with sexual or incest or sexual trauma when you're a child,
Mm.
it's like it's like a soul fragmentation. And so I've been really getting into I've been very pulled intuitively to the shamanistic
Mm.
walk and the pursuit of that knowledge. I had this very unique experience about a month ago, and I was driving in the car and I was listening to this song. It's called Mother, I Feel You. And it's a very drum beat. And I felt like a transcendent, like something happened in my brain where I started to go somewhere else. I'm like, wait a second.
Ooh, she's talking your language, Terry Ann.
I was like, what? I was like, what? So anyway, so now I've been like vibrationally pulled to all these shamanistic books. Like I bought all these awesome books yesterday at this metaphysical store, and like I bought all these great crystals because I'm being like almost pulled towards the vibrational frequency piece of it as well. And I do a lot of this work anyway, but that niche kind of area. And I forgot why I brought this up,
but do you find that changes? So too, when we first start our journey, it changes as you go along, and as you grow and progress to where you've gotten, then it changes and veers, and like it. Yeah, I swear the first time I transformed, I was like, I'm transformed, I'm good. How naive I was. It was like, oh, you think so, right? Now you're going down in the hell again. But
I've never experienced like an altered state of consciousness before. Even the beginning, I was like,
oh my gosh.
Like I can expand out. Like when I'm doing the psychic work, a part of it is me almost like extending my auric field, but like almost my consciousness out into the ethereal, and then I can connect the vibrations to the guides or whatever spirit angel being that comes and gives me or whatever, and so or the higher self of the other person, whatever it might be. And but wow, what an interesting experience. But the reason why I brought that up was I was reading this great book. Do I have it next to me? Because I just did my intuitive live. Oh, here it is. Okay. I thought it was such a cool book because it was talking about, I love the pictures of it. It's
chills.
written by Krista McKinnon. But what I really like is the pictures and the way that the walk of the shaman or the principles of the concepts of that walk of life are verbally framed. And what she talked about was that trauma can be a soul fragmentation, like a loss of the soul or on that level. And I thought, yeah, that's a great way of talking about it, because as I feel that we choose our experiences. And so I chose that, right? And so many of us do. And then we spend a lifetime claiming pieces of our soul back. Yeah. That's how I feel that each time I realized a healing tool worked, or I felt a shift in my self-esteem that I could embrace a piece of my heart that I had lost, or it's almost like a claiming of your spiritual soul self as you heal from this huge violation of the utmost vulnerability. Like it's almost, and I feel that it can take a lifetime. You know, you don't just that level of devastation and hurt. And not saying that, you know, not setting that intention either from a vibrational place, but really like, what does that look like? And how do you get there? And that, so because I was so damaged from that experience, how do you make it to the other side of light? You know, and I had this vision, and I do a lot of acupuncture on myself. So I do the chiropractic piece for the nervous system, and I'm really big on healing trauma from a nervous system perspective too, because it changes the brain and the nervous system. And so I do a lot of acupuncture on my ears, or the NADA protocol, which is trauma-based protocol to regulate the brain. And so I always do, I do a practice on myself 2 to 3 times a week, and I do a lot of intuitive connecting when I'm on the needles in bed. And so I always get the greatest intuitive information. So the last time I did this, it was this week. They brought up the image, because I do this anyway, this kind of the self ritual where I count down from 3, 2, 1, and then I'll clear my mind and I'll say, all right, give me the image I'm supposed to see. And it was interesting because it was an image of the kaleidoscope, like a kaleidoscope image with all these beautiful shades of color. And then I kept seeing these black spots. And I asked intuitively when I'm in that space, like, what are the black spots? And they're saying, oh, that's where you were hurt the most. Behind the black spots is the brightest light of joy. And I thought, huh. And I'm like, well, shoot, I got some more work to do. But you know what I mean? Like that concept of when we're really able to face our deepest hurts and feel all of the deepest hurts and the intensity of them and the
Yeah.
clearing of them and oh my God, the sorrow and despair that sometimes you have to get to the bottom of, that on the other side is where the light is, the high
Yeah.
vibration light.
So is that what keeps you motivated on your professional and your personal side? Is that where you get your motivation from that, or what motivates you on that?
I'm not motivated by money. I thought, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you would think that's the thing.
No, and you know what? I would never think that. Just talking to you, and you can feel
Yeah.
your energy. You're very calm. You can no, just sitting here with you, you can tell, and the way you talk is you truly want to help people. You that really that comes out
Yeah, I think that's
loud
what
and clear.
through when people are really authentic, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that you know, because I came from nothing really. Like I really came from real poverty, and so I always thought that money would make me happy. And now that I'm in this place, I'm like, no, that doesn't. Nothing really about the. Granted, it's important, and you know, in some ways, you know,
Right.
but like I know what it's like to be in that space of no hope for so many years and to be told time and time again by countless doctors again and again how I would that I would never get better, that it was my genetics, that the only option was to take this one form of treatment for the rest of my life. And we're so sorry, but we can't help you besides this one area. And I know the despair and the blackness and the, oh my God, the hell that is. And so when I think about the pain and and almost that place, that's what motivates me, is because I know the value of what I can teach and help people with, because I've been there. And
Yeah.
also I think about all the kids, because I had my brain didn't work because of the trauma. And I
Mhm.
had to, like, my whole life I had to outmaneuver my brain to just learn. And I think of all of the kids that are diagnosed with a label and then they never get better because they're not, that the healing tools are not available to them. And then they're labeled, they prejudice against them. They are told that they are defective, their brains are defective, and then they're stuck for the rest of their lives in some ways. And now that I have this knowledge and that I can't not do something. Like I really want to create a nonprofit and really be able to offer my work to many more people. And I'm looking at getting my diplomate in neurology, because there are kids out there and adults that, you know, my dream is to be able to help reversing trauma in the brain, and then learning issues. Those are my two areas, and depression and anxiety and anything that emotional wellness. But really, like, I know what it's like to have no hope and to want to die for so long. Like
Wow.
to be in that space and to now have the tools that can really make a difference, and to
Mhm.
be able to explain it from a scientific, energetic, and spiritual, like to be able to like yes, I had to walk through some horrible stuff
Right.
to really embrace that, but to have those tools and to, like, I can't just lay there and, like, you know, I don't know, do nothing, you know, like that's, I don't know, there's a
Yeah.
spiritual responsibility when you get to a certain place to turn back and help somebody else.
And then
Oh
your
my
experience with all of those things too. I think, you know, like Ann was saying earlier, you can't preach something if you've not been through it. It's like I've lost a child, so I can actually, you know, when I was practicing medium before. I don't do it anymore because of this. But I could say, like, then experience losing a child now and being with people who have lost children. My gosh, there's a whole nother level to what that feels like, rather than just being in that seat and telling them their child's there and they love them and blah blah blah. But now I've experienced that, and wow, what being on both sides, you can see such a difference in how that information comes across and how they receive that information. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Oh, that, like, I think there's nothing more valuable than someone across from us saying, wow, I understand. I've been there too. Whatever it is, like, there's something sacred. There's something so priceless and sacred in that connecting of the heart at that level. So I'm so glad that you're getting that opportunity to share your
Mhm.
heart with somebody like that. It's a tremendous, what a gift you are to them.
Mhm.
I
You
can't.
guys both are. You guys are both so needed. So needed. Like
Oh,
I can't, like Dr. Roach, I can tell you, like the last 3 readings that I have done, I can send them right over to you, right over to you,
Amazing.
you know, because all I can, you know, help them is the labeling. That's the one thing they said, well, this is what I am. And then they're stuck with that and they just keep it. I'm like, stop saying that, because, you know, to me, which I do know, is the more you keep on saying it, you become it, you know, and I think it
Totally.
becomes them. It becomes, and when they're like, no, there is hope, you know.
But the way that people don't realize that the word diagnosis
Mhm.
is just a system of classification. So so in the Western medicine world, or in the DSMV, right? You
Mhm.
have you have a name, and then you have the checkpoints of the symptoms. Okay. Well, in my line of work in functional medicine and the natural healing world that I've been in for 25 years, all you have to do is figure out where the symptoms are coming from and reverse it. And then the diagnosis label doesn't apply. I have been given so many diagnoses. I mean, from multiple sclerosis to rheumatoid arthritis to diabetes to high blood pressure, cholesterol to all kinds of brain related stuff. You name it. I probably got that diagnosis somewhere in the last 20 years. Like I don't know how I chose this walk, but thank God that my intuition told me, no, I think I'm going to go look at my biochemistry a little closer, because I love cells and biochemistry.
Mhm.
And my intuition would go, no, I think I can figure this out. It may take me a little while, but I think
love it.
there is another way that's not that.
Yeah.
And so it's so scary to sit in that chair in front of somebody with this huge degree that it represents the mastery of this field, and then be heard there. Oh, we're sorry, this is in your genetic line, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's bullshit.
And
That's
you know what?
So I can't, it like just from a, oh my
So-
God, like I can't even, oh, how many times I encounter this, and how many times I've reversed
yeah.
whatever it was, and the people in front of me, if they're willing to do the work. Like it's disheartening.
Mhm.
It's heartbreaking to see the impact of the lack of hope. I was a school teacher for many years. A big shout out to teachers. I love teachers, and I think they're the heroes of society. They saved me growing up. I don't know where I'd be without them. But I was a teacher for quite some time, and I had this student named Alan. And Alan, he was brilliant, but the school, he didn't learn the way everybody else did. But I would see him in the back of my class, like selling CDs and stuff, and I would pretend I didn't see him. And then he became like my spiritual little brother. So I like kind of adopted him, because he didn't really have like, older people that were mentors. And I would teach him all kinds of stuff. And well, in the end, when he hit 20, he got a neurological issue. All right. And so we went to the doctor. The doctor said, hey, we're sorry, we can't help you. This part of your genetics. You're going to probably have this forever. And he committed suicide.
Oh my God.
And because he had no hope. Had I been able to get to him now with what I know, I probably could have reversed it. But that lack of hope in our healing society has detrimental effects on people's souls and their minds.
Mhm.
And so one of the most important things within my work and what I represent is hope.
Mhm.
You know,
I love
and
that, because you know what? Literally, I'm going to call this person as soon as I get off the phone with you, because their child is going through some outbursts and stuff like that. And they put them on all these different medications. It's not working. And now they're going in, matter of fact, I think she said, Friday, tomorrow, to get the genetics to see if it's something that's why the other stuff isn't helping. And it's just like, oh, I love hearing your story, because I'm like, okay, wait.
Yeah.
Right,
What,
'cause then
yeah.
what are they gonna do
there's,
with that
one of-
information? Are they just gonna say, oh, it's your genetics now?
Yeah,
But they're
that's
not
what I
making
mean.
them
It's like, in
cool.
hearing this, it's like, oh, I'm getting so giddy right now. Yeah.
just there's a phenomenal book called Disconnected Kids, and it was a life changer for me. I read that in the beginning of chiropractic school, and I realized that part of my issues with learning and a lot of other things, depression and whatever, was based upon imbalanced brain signaling. And so what happens is that when the amygdala, when you've experienced trauma or abandonment or a lot of other harsh things in developmental stages, your amygdala overactivates and it shuts down the signaling of the frontal lobe. And also inflammation does that too. And so what that does is it can create, as the brain keeps developing as a child, it can throw off symptoms that mimic other diagnoses. And so Dr. Robert Malalo is a chiropractic neurologist. one of my heroes. I hope to take some of his programs one day, but that's why I want to be a chiropractic neurologist, because the power of this in our society with our kids and our adult kids, right? But like, absolutely, there are ways of optimizing the mind. And what people don't realize is that our genetics, there's an area called epigenetics. And what that means is that if our inflammation is high enough, our bad genetics will be turned on. If our inflammation is low enough, our bad genetics are turned off. And so as a result, we have way more control over whether we're going to express the same negative health conditions that our parents did, that are in our genetic line. So even though we have certain genetics, we can outmaneuver them with natural healing principles and tools.
Right. So we can break that chain, break it.
Our power is within ourselves.
Yeah.
But the work that you do is so important, because I feel that it's spiritual shifts within ourselves that give us the hope to keep trying and to stand up one more day and fight and take the healing action that maybe we do not want to do.
Yep.
It's that claiming of that spiritual light and hope that the people that do the intuitive healing work can help people provide and to make that shift.
Yep. I absolutely agree. You need to go and do like go to schools and do like speeches for like the kids, not so much the kids, but I bring, go to schools and talk to the school and bring the parents in. I think even parents need to hear that your words. I think they need to hear this, so saying, well, go have your son tested, or there's nothing they can do, or maybe he needs to be put on some medication. And it's just, they need people like you. Do you do talks? Do you go around and do speeches and talks?
I have, yes. I haven't yet entered the school system. I will though. One of my intentions. But I am not against Western medicine. I feel that at some point I am an integrative doctor, which means that I have full respect for all people that enter the healing fields. However, it's about efficiency and outcome, right? Yes, sometimes certain treatments are needed. However, if we can figure it out another way, I'm gonna, to correct the imbalance, and I'm all for that first, but I am not against any person that follows this path of wanting to help people in any way.
Yeah, the quick fix. You're not all about the quick
fix. Biochemistry, I love biochemistry so much, and I'm like a ridiculous nerd. Like, oh my gosh. And I study it probably almost every day, probably almost the last 20 years. Like that's how much I love it. I love it. But the biochemistry of the body is so vast. So when treatments are given that only address one or two pathways, it's almost like looking at how the body actually works and how interconnected the systems. It makes a lot of sense to me why it doesn't work the majority of the time, or it doesn't work at the level we most hope it would. Maybe it works some, but it doesn't maybe align the body the way I like that I've seen it align in so many of the people that I've worked with and have been around over the last few decades.
Yeah. So, when did you have your aha moment? Because when you're so low, when did you have that aha moment? Like, okay, this is it. Like to go on the spiritual side. Like
I don't think I had a choice. It was either that or die.
Oh, okay. But you know what? Some people don't even get that though. Some people, so it is your intuition. You had a connection, because some people don't even have that. They don't even have that awareness within them. And you did have that.
I knew that I couldn't stay where I was. I was too close to offing myself and leaving the planet. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have an option. And I knew that my family deserved more than, or I knew that I deserved more. I knew that I couldn't become like my mother, who was horribly victimized by the medical system and, was in institutions in and out my whole life and was horribly treated. I knew I couldn't be that, and that there had to be another way, and I had to find it. And so, but I guess it was my intuition that told me that I could do it, that there was something else, there was something better for my life. Yeah. And had I not had that intuition, I don't think I'd be here.
You have your strong soul that you was loud enough, you know what I mean? It yelled at you loud enough where you could hear it. So kudos to you. I'm so glad. Thank and I really honestly,
we have about a minute left.
Already? No. Can we do a part two? This is
Or
so
anytime,
good.
anytime.
You are so needed and you are just a
Absolutely.
beautiful soul. And it's so funny because I don't really read people as we're doing this, but you are definitely going to do stuff with the school system. And I mean, we're not just talking elementary, we're talking like colleges. I mean, you're really gonna get out there. And I think it's so needed. I think you are that angel that is come and